are live, but we're also on tape. Always remember that. We're in the bowels of Lee's Music in beautiful Studio 2 at Lee's Music. That's Chris Foulds. I'm Marty Hastings, and this is Kamloops Last Week. Chris, new desk, what do you think?
I think Mike Miltimore has a secondary career as a carpenter. This is beautiful, and it's got the KLW red that just splashes, so it's quite beautiful.
Magic Mike comes through again. We got a great show today. I'm pumped on it. Tom Gaglardi, he owns the Kamloops Blazers. He owns the Dallas Stars. He runs the largest hospitality company in the nation. We're going to talk to him about the Blazers. We're going to talk to Jeremy Heighton of the NSBIA about criminality in the North Shore. You're going to deal with that. But first, a message from our advertiser.
All right, Chris, you're doing a really great job.
I'm Marty.
Oh, all right, Marty, you're doing a really great job. This show is going to be golden. And Chris, you're going to be doing Marty, Chris, yeah, whatever. It doesn't really matter. You guys are going to rock it. I'm so excited about. Hey, this is Mike from Lee's Music. Whatever you need for your touring needs, for streaming needs, when the pandemic's over and you want to grow your hair out long and do that thing that you've always wanted to do, give me a call. I'll fix you up with musical instruments, with whatever it is. I'm here. www.leesmusic.net.
We haven't even started recording yet, and this guy's trying to get free advertising.
Yeah, we're not running that.
Still lots of time to get in on the ground floor, be part of the last week clique, as I like to call it. We want you to advertise with us. We want you to be creative, have some fun, maybe throw a logo up there, do a commercial that people are going to remember instead of just standing in front of a refrigerator and doing a thumbs up and telling people you've been in business for 25 years, which nobody cares about. Let's do something different and have fun with this thing. Reach us at klw@kamloopsthisweek.com or chris@ktwdigital.com if you'd like to advertise with us. Fouldsy, last week, learning experience. What was the feedback that you got?
Well, the feedback I got was learn how to look into a camera properly, and I'm trying to do that. If the viewers don't know, the camera's right here. Mike has put it down so it's easier to see, but I'm also looking at myself up here, and this thing over here draws my attention, so I'll just look at you a lot more here so it's not so awkward.
I think you were a little bit concerned about your own appearance, and your daughter maybe didn't help with your confidence as well?
Yeah, my daughter thought I needed to be institutionalized based on some of the looks there, but that's what daughters say.
I thought you looked fine, and funnily enough, we're supposed to actually talk to each other on a talk show, so that was some of the feedback, that we actually have to converse with one another.
Yes.
So that's important. My hair took a bit of a beating, so I went to Tommy Gunn's today and got a haircut. They didn't like my dry slick pompadour, apparently. That was mostly some of my buddies that were having a go at me, so that's been fixed. No more soliloquies. I think 5-minute soliloquies into the camera are kind of like the one I'm giving right now.
Exactly.
Not supposed to happen.
No, it has to be quick, fast, in with the groove.
Yeah. And one of the critiques that I got was, I won't name names, but publisher Tim Schultz. He emailed and said, Marty, I don't know if you were just nervous, but when you were throwing to your new segments, you were doing a lot of pointing. Well, I'm going to still do that because I like to do that. So let's go to our next segment, which is the Tattle of Hastings. Chris, we're going to talk to Tom here pretty quick, but the Blazer season this year, could you get into it like you normally could in a normal year?
No, and no one I know could either. It's not the fault of the Blazers or the league. It's the fault of the plague, and no one could go see the games. I know some people who anteed up money for the first couple of games, but it's hard. It's hard to get. We talked about this. It's hard to get excited about an exhibition slate of games. It really is. It's like the Canucks in Calgary. They played the last few games, and nobody cares about that. I'm not saying nobody cares about the Blazers, but it's hard to get into it when you're not in the stands. There's no playoffs. There's no Memorial Cup. For the players themselves, it's very important for many reasons, but for the fans, very, very hard to get into from a detached point of view.
Even from a professional standpoint, I love the atmosphere. I love the big game moments, and those weren't there. I think it was still worthwhile to go and cover the games, and I'm glad I did go to a few of them. But I think some kudos first to the organization, to the league, to the volunteers, to the city of Kamloops, to everybody who, to the staff of the team itself, who made this thing work. I was pro-season to start, but I did have some concerns about the risk reward. Was this going to be worth it? And resoundingly, it was worth it, and solely for what it did for the players. You look at somebody like a Josh Pillar, who vaults himself back into the NHL draft conversation. Someone like Montana Onyebuchi, who gets an AHL contract, and you can go up and down down the list, Caden Bank here, and what this did for their careers and for their lives was monumental. That being said, my overwhelming feeling watching that last game and watching these players skate around the ice with no fans in the building, celebrating what should have been an amazing accomplishment, was sadness. Sadness for these players.
It was sadness, but the truncated season, everyone should know this. It was for the development and career of these players to be seen by the scouts, to stay in shape so when they go up to the AHL. It's all about that. So it wasn't about the fans. So in that case, it needed to be done that way. And notwithstanding the Kelowna Rockets, flurry of initial COVID positive tests, it was pretty flawless. It was run pretty well.
I do think more about the players though and what they missed out on, because you play the game for these big moments in the playoffs. You go into a hostile barn in the playoffs and you get a big win and you honk the horn on your way out of the arena, on your way out of the stadium area. Or you score a goal at Sandman Center and you blow the roof to Vavenby. And they missed out on all those moments. You think about somebody like Connor Zary, who 2 BC division titles,
Yeah.
1 playoff series.
That's right.
1 playoff series in the Western Hockey League. So he got a raw deal along with every single one of those graduating players, and I feel for them. They were listening to Simply the Best and We Are the Champions, and it echoed through the cavernous Sandman Center. So that sucked, bottom line. Now, let's bring in Tom Gaglardi. I talked to him for about 20 minutes. You can catch that whole interview on our YouTube account. Just search Kamloops last week. You can find the whole thing. But here is a piece of it right now.
Back-to-back BC Division champions. How does it feel? What are you most proud of?
I'm proud of the group. It's been a unprecedented, challenging time, obviously, and I think the fact that these kids came, to town and abided by the rules and just showed incredible discipline, and the fact we went over 2 months without a single positive COVID case while the province is battling these variants is says something about our group, and obviously that discipline to really run away with the BC division is it feels pretty good. I'm disappointed we don't get to play deep and play playoffs.
The players didn't get to see it through, the ownership group, the fans, the city of Kamloops. How much do you feel for everybody involved that you couldn't see what you could have done in the playoffs the last 2 years?
Well, it's sad. I mean, it's really frustrating that we finally, it's our turn, and we've got a team that's capable of making it to the Memorial Cup, and we don't get the chance. But I've said it before, it is what it is, and it's a global pandemic, and people have lost livelihoods, people have lost their lives.
Can you pinpoint a time or a moment where things started to turn for the organization?
Well, we made a lot of changes 3 odd years ago with our staff, and so to some extent you look at the success of the last 2 years. It's not fair to say that's not that a lot of those moves were made by the old the other management team that was there. And so I think since the new management team's come in, they've just done a really great job of drafting and recruiting. And so I think that our old players are really good, but I think most people that watch our team think that the strength of it is the young players. I think it was really good for our organization to bring in some more youthful people that are a little closer to where the players are at, and because it's changed. The players today have changed, and they're different. They come from different places, and the challenges on them and the challenges with them are different than they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. So having some young people on staff has really been helpful.
What about with you personally? Did you change anything about the way you wanted to handle this team at some point?
No, I think the big decisions that I made 3 years ago were really what I just believed that we weren't heading the right direction, and I think that group had enough of a chance to get us to a place, and for some reason we couldn't get there. And I don't mean this in a bad way. I'm still friends with those folks, and have a lot of respect for them, and some of them have incredible resumes, but it just felt like it was time for change, and it was time to to go elsewhere and really identify the top talent in terms of who's available, who's around the league, and who's been having success. And I think there's always been a a push in Kamloops too, because of the Blazers' past success, and there's so much of them and so many amazing people that were connected with it. I think there's really always a push to find your solutions in the rafters, find ex-Blazers that can come help us, be great again. And that's largely not worked in Kamloops. It's largely not worked in a lot of markets where you see it happen. So, I just think we just decided it was time to get some younger people around and maybe more relevant around. And so obviously picked Matt out of the Portland organization, and Robbie Sandland, another young guy, loves to scout, loves to be around the rinks, really a hardworking fellow. And then, the coaching, we landed on Sean Clouston, who's had lots of success in Medicine Hat, and he's come in and been a great fit. And then Corey, his brother, is really, really, again, NHL coaching pedigree, an unbelievable hockey mind. Really, I think he's really the guy that makes the special teams so good.
2020, yourself, Norm Daly, and some others in the community made a huge push for the Memorial Cup. You fell just short, and Kelowna won the bid. 2023, do you want to take a shot at it?
Yeah, I think I would hope that our community is supportive of that. It was disappointing to not win last time, and as it turned out, you win nothing, obviously, with the pandemic canceling the Memorial Cup. So I'd like to think our team is going to be in a position competitively that we take it seriously, and I would hope that the city, the community, and the community leaders who are part of the whole process, starting with Norm Daly, will be ready to go again. So that would be my hope.
Well, I read a couple of stories out of Kelowna that used the word awarded. The Kelowna could be awarded the Memorial Cup in 2023, as in given it because it didn't happen in 2020. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think if that's the right thing to do, then that could be the right thing to do. I haven't been involved in any formal conversation around that, but if that happens, then we'll deal with it as it comes. So I think it's going to, it just because you have the market size and the ability financially to host a Memorial Cup, I don't think is enough. So if Kelowna is going to want the cup again in 2023, then they're going to need to have a competitive team, and so we'll see if they do.
Tom did his best there to be politically correct, but he did land a couple of jabs at the end of the interview. What did you make of it?
I think it's classic Kamloops Kelowna rivalry stuff, which people eat up. And I think he made some good points about aiming for the cup in 23. The nucleus of the team and the additions to the team will be arguably as strong as they are now. And I think they would have a really good shot at securing the host city. And I think even more so because when Kelowna won the right to host it, people were rightly upset. Kamloops had a much better team, and they had a better stake with the 25-year anniversary and all that kind of stuff.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the league handles it with, are they just going to vote to give the Memorial Cup to Kelowna without a bidding process? And I think if that happens, Tom's not going to be as politically correct. He's going to land uppercuts and not soft jabs about the process. I think it's more likely it does go to a vote. Even in that situation, you hear him talking about the team there, and these are pointed shots because of what you mentioned in 2020 when the Rockets won the Memorial Cup. The Blazers finished 22 points ahead of them in the standings.
That's right. Plus, they had the legacy behind their bid, the whole anniversary thing. Do you think Bruce Hamilton has that much power to make it a?
Absolutely, he's the head honcho on the board of governors.
Yep.
Also interesting to note about that is the Blazers are set up for it. The Blazers are set up to be a great team in 2023. They're going to have a 19-year-old Logan Stankoven who's going to be the poster boy of the league at that time. The Western Hockey League has been poor at recent Memorial Cups. It sets up to be a nice little Kamloops-Kelowna battle. I felt like I had something else to add there, but I can't remember, so we're going to flip to your segment, Above the Foulds.
1, 2, 3, 4.
there has been a lot of talk lately about the problems of the streets, the problems on the streets of Kamloops and other cities, and it goes from homelessness that's attached to mental illness, that's attached to addiction issues, but there's also a group within there that are just criminals. They're criminals, and I think they're taking advantage of the mess on the streets to ply their trades with impunity. And the problem with this is that you'll see on social media comments especially, it's come to the point where if a business owner complains about being broken into or being negatively affected by the issues on the street, there's certain people online, social justice warriors, who will come and they'll attack the business owners. So it's like the business owner has become a victim for talking about being a victim. And it's almost like some of the people online are trying to out-sympathize each other, saying, well, yeah, your business got broken into, but the issue on the street, what about this, what about this, what about this? And we saw it first at KTW when we did a story on the West Victoria Street business owners who were out of their minds with crime, with theft, with defecation, with sexual acts, with people running into the businesses and stealing stuff. And it never ended. So we did a big feature on it. They were hesitant to come and speak because of this issue. They didn't want to be seen in a bad light. But we did this big feature. Jessica Wallace did the story. And predictably, now looking back, it was a lot of people were piling onto the business owners saying, how dare you complain because these people need help?
Well, you wrote a column about it too, and you're speaking up about it right now. So, I mean, are you worried about being perceived as a heartless tyrant as well by speaking up about it?
No, because in that column and right here, I think we're separating the two issues. There is a social issue that needs to be addressed, that is being addressed, but it'll never be addressed fully because no matter how much money you throw at the problem, it's a massive problem. I'm talking about the people who need help on the streets. The problem is a lot of people don't want that help, so then the argument, the debate comes about involuntary care and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about the people who prey on the community and on that community, and it's the willful criminals who basically use that community as a cover to rob, steal, vandalize, and just run the streets. It's happening now. We see it.
Well, anecdotally, you and I have a shared story. I know it's not hard science, it's not hard evidence, but you and I went down for a drink at the Plaza last Friday. Beautiful day, beautiful sunny day in Kamloops, and amazing to see all those patios jam-packed.
It was jam-packed.
And good to see happy people walking around and having fun. At the same time, I have never seen it like that before as far as the criminality, blatant, brazen drug deals, probably 3 or 4 drug deals I saw right in front of us, and they were dealing to homeless people. This was criminals who were dealing to homeless people, and it's discomforting. And believe me, I'm not here to whine about being discomforted with my privilege. I'm just making a point of for me, I'm going to go back downtown anyway. But there are some people who are going to see that, and they're not going to want to come back downtown because it's uncomfortable to sit on a patio and watch all this stuff happening. Maybe you don't feel safe, and that affects businesses. So that, I think, is an issue.
It's a domino effect. We've heard this about 10, 12 years ago when the city the actual police department introduced what they call red zones, where they arrest someone for drug dealing or for sex trades or something else, and they would ban them from the red zones. So if you're arrested downtown, you got banned, and North Shore had the same thing. All it did was move the problem around. But you're right. We're not stigmatizing, trying to stigmatize or criticize people who honestly need help. But where we were sitting at the Plaza Hotel, 4 blocks down, the Memorial Arena, twice in the last month, there's been an open air market of stolen bike parts. And there's these guys there, and they basically have stolen bikes up to here, and they're taking them apart, and they're selling this, and they're doing this. It's basically a flea market of stolen goods. And the community services, the bylaws go there, they shut them down, they're back up the next day. It's those type of people that we need to focus on. And the problem is the criminal justice system with COVID. Kamloops, the jail, Kamloops Regional Correction Center, it's 57% of capacity. So there is room to put these people in there temporarily, but because of COVID, they're not going in there, they're going to court, they come right back out. The police are doing their job. When they get to court, they come right back out. It's called a catch and release system, and it's frustrating for business owners.
And I think our guest this week, Jeremy Heighton, can talk about that. And let's flip to that segment right now.
Our next guest is Jeremy Heighton. He's the executive director of the North Shore Business Improvement Association. It's an association that represents 420 businesses on the North Shore, and it's quite an active organization. They're in the news lately now because there's been street issues, there's been crime issues everywhere in the city, Valley View, downtown, North Shore. But down in the Tranquil Market there's been a number of break-ins, a number of burglaries, and brazen criminals. The latest one was at the Jamaican Kitchen, which prompted the NSBIA, Jeremy, and the president, Bryce Herman, to pen a letter asking that basically the criminal justice system has to start being accountable to the people of the city. They talked about a state of siege on the streets. They talked about criminals being released, the catch and release thing again, and they want the criminal justice system to start caring about safety in this community.
Okay, let's bring Jeremy in right now. Jeremy, thanks for joining us.
Hey, my pleasure.
Hi, Jeremy. About that letter, the letter you sent to the city, to the police, it's about the criminal justice system and wanting accountability. And we just mentioned the points you raised in there. Talk a little bit about that for those who might not know what the issue is.
Well, we have for quite some period of time been experiencing, I think, an escalation in street level issues across our city. Whether this pans out to, somebody having 18 BMX bikes on the beach, or it pans out to a window being broken on a business and a cash box being stolen, there really is a perception of an inability of enforcement in our city to hold people accountable for criminal activities. Now, there are two sides to this equation. One side is the complex care needs of those who are opioid addicted or have mental health issues, and we totally understand that. And that conversation is well down the pathway of starting. But the piece that's not being well managed, in our opinion, is the piece around the criminal justice system. Our CMP officers tell us on a regular basis they're frustrated because they can't get charges through Crown Counsel. Crown Counsel won't lay charges because the judiciary won't, enact accountability for repetitive criminal activities. And so at some point you end up with a situation like Kamau had on his deck the other day, where the two thugs who were on his deck, when he confronted them, basically said, "We own this, so go and F yourself." Yeah. And that's a huge issue, because as soon as a community experiences this level of impunity in its criminal element, we've really eroded our safety to a point where we have to, as a community, come back and say, what are we going to do about this? And this is not just a problem here in Kamloops. This is a criminal code issue. It's a mental health act issue. It's a broader issue. And so our letter really was intended to say, what is happening? Where is this disconnect? Is it at judiciary level? And if so, what do we do, Mayor Christian? What do we do, City of Kamloops, to stand beside you and lobby for the changes that are required? Because I have this feeling that once we start this action, we're going to see a groundswell of support across the country for similar reforms.
Okay, Jeremy, you kind of touched on it there. What do you want to see done?
Well, at this point, we're meeting with Mayor Christian. We're also meeting with the public health officer for the Interior Health Region tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Actually, as this is being taped on Wednesday, it's tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And our goal is really to get a sense of what we are working on as a community together. So what is working, what's not working, how can we make some changes to our system? The other piece is really not quite there yet, and this is where our problem runs, is our policing side, right? Mental health, complex care, totally get it. But the policing side, we're still trying to engage in that conversation. Our CMP have released a general statement last Friday, basically saying they're going to work with all stakeholders. So what we're going to be doing is, post meeting with Mayor Christian and our public health officer, we will be actually reaching out to the Attorney General, Solicitor General, and those folks in Victoria, and saying, okay, so what do we need to do next? What's our next steps? And I suspect what we'll be doing is coming back to our community as a whole, the entire city of Kamloops, and saying we need a letter writing campaign, or we need, a change.org petition or something, so that the politicians who are advocating for these changes actually have some groundswell of support. Because right now we think what happens is, politicians get together in a room, they have a great conversation, they all acknowledge there's a problem, and then they sort of go away and they try to do what they do on their own. And we're saying, as a community, Mayor Christian, we stand with you. Mm-hmm. You've acknowledged that this is a problem. We've acknowledged this is a problem. So now what are we going to do about it as a community? Let's work together and make some things happen.
And it's an urgent problem. It really is an urgent problem. You mentioned in your letter that in the first quarter of this year, January, February, March, more than $168,000 it has cost the businesses just in that Tranquil Corridor area through crime, vandalism, crime prevention. They're augmenting the security. That's all already being paid for by taxpayers. Have you reached out to the Kamloops Downtown BIA and other BIAs in BC to maybe get a concerted effort going on?
Right now, we have reached out to the KC BIA. Carl DeSantis and his board, I know, have been looking at this issue quite resoundingly. I don't know if they're going to release a public position, but Carl has told me privately that they are fully in support of the letter. The Chamber of Commerce, Dan Carroll, the president, myself, Tyson Anderkew, and Acacia Pangelinan have all had conversation. They stand behind our letter completely and 100%. What we want to do now is we want to figure out what the target is for us to advocate how we're directing our energies. Once we get that in play, then we'll go out to our other BIA partners across Western Canada, and we'll start to create that groundswell of movement. At this point, really, the letter was about two things. It was about identifying that missing middle piece. So what's missing in the policing piece?
Right.
But the other piece for us that was so critically important in our business community and in our neighborhoods is to tell people, we hear you. We understand your frustration. We share it. You know, it's a tragic day when when grandma can't leave her chaise lounge in her backyard, or when your kids can't leave their bikes out, by the shed.
It is, and those are petty crimes. We call them petty crimes, but to the people being victimized, they're not petty at all to the kids or to someone who even a flower pot being taken. That's not right. I was going to ask you this.
Exactly.
You mentioned that you had some good feedback on that letter. It's a blunt letter. I think it's a needed letter. Have you heard anything from the other side? Any pushback from people? I know you took pains to make sure that this is not about the mental health and addiction issue. It's about the willful criminals, the people who knowingly do this stuff. Have you heard anything from that side at all?
You know, we are heavily engaged in the community development side. We believe that a holistic community is a healthy community for business and for neighbors. So we're heavily involved with our social agencies. We work very closely with our outreach services. We are very, very positively engaged with them. We've had zero pushback. In fact, many of those agencies feel the same pain we do because there's little accountability for them on some of the people that they're trying to work with as well. And in fact, we've had about 75 shares of that original letter on social media. We've had 200 likes, multiple hundreds comments, and the phone literally for Thursday and Friday last week rang off the hook with people saying, how can we help to make this go forward? So what we wanted the community to know is, you know, business does not stand alone. We are not an island unto ourselves. We rely on our neighbors, and our neighbors rely on us. And so together as a community, we have an opportunity to affect tremendous positive change if we channel it in a positive and effective manner. And that's what we're really after.
What have we not asked you about that's on your mind about this issue?
I think one of the big challenges going forward will be that it is easy to point fingers of blame. You know, so-and-so isn't doing their job, or such and such isn't standing up. I think, I said this on a conference call just this morning, I think that we have to understand and respect the fact that everybody is under tremendous pressure and tremendous stressors trying to resolve these issues. However, until we have a criminal code and a mental health act in British Columbia that allow us to act on repeat willful criminal offenses, we are going to continue to spin our wheels. And that is where I think the major changes need to come. And I think that once that occurs, whether it's Peter or Todd or, you know, our local MLAs or Kathy McLeod, once we have that advocacy moving forward, I think then we'll start to see some change occur. Right now, the RCMP can only enforce what already exists in case law and the direction they receive from Crown Council. Bylaw are limited in their powers. Outreach services, you know, are also limited. So we have to redetermine what we want our communities to look like into the future. And to me, I've been using the term healthy community outcomes. It's not about just the homeless or just business or just neighbors. It's about all of us together creating the community we really want to live in. And until we have that rebalancing of rights, we are going to continue to struggle So let's come together as a community and find positive ways to resolve this.
That's a good term, rebalancing of rights. I think that's important. And I think the only thing you can do is what you're doing is pressure, but it has to be constant, consistent, and it has to never let up, because a lot of times these initiatives happen, but life gets in the way, you get busy, and then it fades away. Now, before we I'd be remiss not to go out on a more positive note. You're the executive director of the NSBIA, and like everyone else, we've been affected by the pandemic. Yes. Tell us something that's going on, give us an update of what's going on in the North Shore that people might want to look forward to. For example, would the Overlander Day be taking place this year? Is there anything else happening we should know about right now?
Yeah, so our event side has really been, like all others, curtailed significantly. We are pushing for Overlanders Day for the end of August. It will of course be fully dependent upon public health orders and how we can move forward through that, but our goal is to do that. We are also talking about hosting the Tapestry Multicultural Festival on the Tronquil Corridor, hopefully in September. Again, dependent upon public health orders. I can tell you that in the last few months, we've had 20 new businesses open on the North Shore. We are aware of a number of more that are coming. We have new buildings in the works for the next 6 to 12 months. It's tremendously positive, and we have amazing people who are doing incredible things, both for the community and at the service to community. And you know, this last year has been tough for all of us. But I know that our businesses over here are eternally grateful for the customers who come from their neighborhoods across the city to shop local, to really take care of the little business owner who next year will be sponsoring your soccer team or your Tiny Tights baseball teams. We're all one community, and we all need to work together. And we have been so blessed to have such a positive vibe on the North Shore, and we're looking forward to continuing that.
Excellent.
Jeremy, thanks for your time. Hell of a job today, and we look forward to hearing about that meeting.
It's always my pleasure.
Thanks.
Thanks to Jeremy. Thanks to Tom Gaglardi for joining us today. I think we were slightly less robotic today. How did you feel about it?
I felt way better. Way better, but it's going to be better even next week because we're getting more into the rhythm here of this. And I'd like to hear what people think. Maybe they have some topics that they'd like us to address. That'd be good to hear.
Thanks again to Magic Mike for the brand new set desk here, to Bonnie for hitting the buttons back there and trying to make us look good, to Scott Finley and the Grand Ones for some of the music. That's it for today. We'll see you last week.